In this week's chapter of One Piece, we finally get to learn how Sanji escaped from the evil Vinsmoke family. This may come as a shock, but Sanji was actually saved by his sister Reiju. That is right. I had a feeling that this was probably going to be the case, the way that they've been building up her character over the last couple of months, making it seem as if she's not as bad as Sanji's brothers, and that's made painfully clear in this week's eye-opening chapter of One Piece, which frankly I really enjoyed. A lot of what I really loved about it is that we got to see how tumultuous Sanji's family life really is, the fact that his brothers and sister have the ability to train and go outside, while he is forced to stay in a cage and have an iron mask. Not only that, but he is secretly cooking for his mother, a character that we have still not even seen until this very chapter. Her name isn't dropped, but of course, she looks basically just like Sanji. A little bit more like his sister, of course, because she's female, but this is a really important detail, because this is where we basically get to see where Sanji finally started to learn his love of cooking. There were already little bits and pieces of that in some of the earlier chapters where he was actually cooking for rats and for random people, and actually wanting to serve people good food, but it all stems for the love of his mother, who I'm guessing is either ill or sick. She seems to be in some sort of hospital bed when Sanji is actually visiting her in this chapter. In fact, he shouldn't even be able to break out when he's doing this, and he's risking a lot by doing this, but he's willing to let it all go because he just doesn't want to have anything to do with his other family members, who are basically just a bunch of assholes. But the rest of the chapter, we finally get the big revelation as to how Sanji actually escaped from his prison, and of course, that's the sister Reiju. In fact, I thought it was really funny when she just sort of casually walks up to his cage and just, like, bends the bars. It really shows how incredibly powerful she is, and it also leads me to believe that she's probably going to be very important in this arc in terms of what she's going to do for Sanji. She might even go as far as to actually helping him again, although this could end up biting her in the ass as well, because she does make it painfully clear yet again that she's only doing this because she cares for Sanji, but she can't let anyone know about it, and she can't display any sort of emotion, otherwise she would get all sorts of crap from her father Jaji, not to mention her brothers as well. Another little detail that I really loved about this chapter has to deal with the Germa 66 army as they're getting ready to go to war in the East Blue. They have those massive snail ships, which act as regular pirate ships, but they also have this other cool ability where they can actually scale walls and mountainsides. And something about that to me is really awesome. It really shows that Germa 66 has complete dominion over the land and the sea. They can pretty much traverse anything, and that's why they're such a successful company. That's why they've been able to conquer so many different things. And then, of course, we get the big scene where Sanji is finally getting ready to run away. He has a tense confrontation with his father. His father basically just sort of disowns him in this chapter. You know, we've already known that he didn't really care for his son, and he basically just uses him for the fact that they're about to form like a big alliance with Big Mom. But this chapter right here made it very evident that he just does not care about his son whatsoever. It kind of reminds me of the scene in The Lion King where Scar tells Simba to run and never return. It's very similar to that in many senses, and we could just assume at the very end of this flashback, this is when Sanji makes his big escape, probably going on one of these big ships which are heading to the East Blue, and this is probably where he eventually ran into Zeph. Now, that could have been the end of the chapter right there, and it would have been satisfying. And you know what? I did like it, but my favorite part of this chapter has to be the final page, where we finally go back to the big battle between Luffy and Cracker. Now, what's really clever about this, and I didn't even think about this before, Cracker's ability is his ability to create all of these biscuits and cookies and crackers and make them into armor. And then you have a character like Luffy, who has an insatiable appetite and will eat anything that you put right in front of him. So Luffy literally starts devouring all of his clone soldiers to the point where he can't even contain it anymore, and he's all big and fat, and he basically is saying that I can eat anything you can throw at me. So this is a battle that I didn't expect going this way whatsoever. I was sort of thinking Luffy might go into Gear 4th and just try to knock him out now that all of his armor is gone, because now that he doesn't have the biscuit armor, he's definitely a lot more vulnerable. Although Luffy now knows that in order to get to him, all he has to do is just eat right through the armor and he can get right to his enemy. But overall, it was just really funny, and that's the best thing about this battle right here, is it's been totally unpredictable from start to finish, and it's not even done quite yet, so I'm sure there's going to be a few more twists on what's going to happen in this appetizing battle. So, what's the rundown on this week's chapter of One Piece? We're finally getting that Sanji backstory, and I'm glad they actually got through it in the course of a single chapter, because a lot of times when they do flashbacks of characters in manga series, especially in One Piece, these things can get dragged on for a really long time. I didn't feel that much emotion from this chapter. This is one of those manga chapters that I feel is probably going to benefit a lot more from the anime version, because we're going to have voice acting, we're going to have some really great music, and of course, when everybody cries in One Piece, they just go over the top with it in the anime version, and there is a lot of crying in this chapter right here. Not to mention, I just can't wait to see what all of the brothers and the sister are going to sound like in the anime version. Not to mention Reiju actually breaking those bars. I cannot wait to see that moment in the anime version. It was so abrupt in the manga, and even Sanji himself looked like he was about to frickin' shit his pants when he saw that. And it makes me wonder how strong the actual brothers are, too, if she could just so casually break those bars when she was so young. I mean, you have to realize, Sanji's a pretty powerful person, but he really didn't become that way until he started to really join the Straw Hat Pirates. I mean, he always had some fighting ability, and I guess he was genetically modified himself. Maybe he's just a late bloomer. Maybe his abilities just took a long time, and they were just sort of gestating over a long period, and then finally, boom, his legs can finally start to catch on fire. But still, all of that was really good. I thought it was handled well. I loved the snail ships. I don't know why that sticks out to me so much. I looked at that panel and did kind of like a double take. I'm like, wait a minute, those things aren't on the fucking ocean. They're going up the side of a cliff. That's freaking awesome. I can't wait to see more of that in action, because you know it's inevitable that we're probably going to get this big warlike confrontation between Germa 66, the Straw Hat Pirates, maybe even Big Mom, and we're going to see this whole armada, which is going to start to come up over the Candy Island with all of these massive snails and everything. It's going to look pretty intimidating and kind of goofy all at the same time, which is something that I think the One Piece series has always done a pretty good job of doing. I'm really excited, though, that we're getting back to Luffy and Cracker, although I'm not going to get my hopes up too much, because we all know that the One Piece series does whatever the hell it wants. They could immediately jump to something else in the next chapter. I really like them to get to the whole story, though, of Luffy versus Cracker, although we still need to see a little bit more of Sanji's escape. I mean, yes, we can infer that he probably stowed away on one of the ships and then eventually met Zeph, and then they got into their whole thing and they started their restaurant. But I just want to see how all of that really connects. I want to see the dotted lines there. But I also want to see Luffy versus Cracker, but I also want to see what's going on with Pedro and Brook and Nami and all their other groups. So there's a lot of excitement in this chapter of One Piece right here, and it was a necessary evil type of chapter. Sanji's backstory, of course, is very depressing, just like every other Straw Hat crew member, but I'm starting to appreciate him a little bit more, just seeing where he came from, and just, it really puts a different perspective on the character, because before any of this was even announced, I never imagined that Sanji had a backstory like this at all, and to see it so something this important, that he belonged to a family which was so instrumental in the One Piece world, despite the fact that they're only being brought up now, I think is a pretty big deal. So, fantastic chapter, lots of great artwork. Sanji's mother is officially introduced, Sanji escapes, and Luffy is eating Cracker up. So this was a great one right here. I really loved it. It had some funny moments, especially in that final panel, but all of the emotional moments with Sanji really hit it home. It wasn't the chapter I wanted, because I got really teased with the whole Luffy versus Cracker thing. I kind of wish they didn't show that, and they would have just saved that for the next chapter, and we would have just finished with all of the Sanji stuff. That being said, I think this was a solid chapter of One Piece that any fan of the series should definitely check out. So I'm going to drop a 4 out of 5 on this one. Make sure to check it out, One Piece fans. But you heard my thoughts about this week's chapter. I want to hear from you guys. Make sure to tell me what you thought about this week's chapter of One Piece in the comments section below. What did you think of Sanji's big escape? And what's the deal with his mother? Why are they keeping her so mysterious and not even giving us a name for the character? And what do you think is going to happen in the epic conclusion between Luffy and Cracker? Please tell me in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. But one more thing before you guys go. Today was one of the most epic days for Naruto Shippuden fans. The big battle between Naruto and Sasuke took place, and both me and Christian just did a reaction to both of those episodes. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Once it is released, I'm going to put a link for that video in the description box below. It's a really long video because it is 2 episodes all together. Needless to say, it was epic as all hell. But if you want to see us squealing like friggin' fangirls, make sure to check that out. I also have my review of both of those episodes, which is going to be coming out right after that as well, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby!